Hi, guys. Welcome to Mahogany Honey Podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. And today we have a special guest. Today I have la autora, the author, Lizbel Ortiz, the writer of Por la Buena o Por la Mala.
Yeah.
Hey, say hey, girl.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. You guys, I've been like, I can't even tell you how excited I am to have her on today. I have been literally ecstatic of like touching the subject, and I could not find someone more perfect to have this conversation with than Lizbel. I
Oh,
have
stop
tracked her
it.
down. I have like shot arrows like an Indian, but like, Lizbel, vamos, let's go.
Wow. Such an honor.
And so I'm so excited to like start exploring a detailed, storytelling journey into your path and
Mhm.
to become into like how you became an author. So I can't wait to hear that. And hopefully throughout the conversation, we hope to give the listeners or your readers
Mhm.
tools on how to overcome mental and emotional barriers to find healing and to begin to embrace our feminine energy, our feminine
Mhm.
side.
Yes.
um and so, most of the keywords we'll be dropping are like, mother wounds. We're going to talk about femininity. We're going to touch on generational traumas,
Mhm.
mother-daughter relationships, parentification, and just like gaslightings. We're going to touch um on accountability, because at the end of the day, like, yes, we love our parents, but at the same time, with that same love, when you love people, you also kind of hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
um so introduce yourself, girl. Let them know. It's good.
I am all right. If I have to. I am Lizbel Ortiz. I'm 27-year-old writer, author slash baker. I've been writing, I'd say, for the last 8 years. I started writing my book when I was 21. I'm 27 now, so it took me about 7 years to finish up and wrap up. But before that, I was, well, not even before that. Currently, I'm a home-based baker, so that's actually what I've done for the last 10 years. I
Mm.
make all kinds of beautiful desserts.
What you make? What you make?
I make strawberry cheesecakes. I specialize in brownies, cookies, cupcakes. My tres leches cupcakes are to die for. I'll stand proudly on those. So I have to get some of those to you too. So
Oh my god.
I got you. I'll make you a whole little gift basket. But that's basically what I've been doing for the last 10 years. I was always a home based baker. I also did network marketing for about 7 years. I was in a travel company, so I was going all over the place and
Oh, that's awesome.
learning so much about personal development. And I think that's what really inspired my writing journey because I became a huge reader.
Oh
I
wow.
loved reading. I loved learning about myself, learning about others. And that's when I was like, all right, let me take all of these thoughts in my head and put them onto paper and see how it turns out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's Yeah. That sounds very similar to my interest. Maybe that's
Wow.
why we're doing this podcast.
That's hilarious.
I can't.
Yeah, I'm also
Um.
100% Dominican. I was
Woo!
born and raised in East New York, Brooklyn, and I moved to Queens when I was about 15 or 16.
You already know she's bringing that NYC vibe. You already know
Yep.
with the whoopties. You already
Yep.
know where the whoopty
Already know.
resides. So, what led you to write the book, and what is it based on? Matter of fact, I actually have it with me because the reader's gonna see this, and the reader's gonna know this is her book, you guys. I'm on like page 5, but don't judge me. But I got a
Take
little
your time.
insight. I got a little insight into it. Uh, so what? Tell me, girl. Give me the scoop. What led you to
Okay.
write the book?
So I've always been super passionate about the topics that I talk about, which is like religion in our homes, gaslighting, racism, colorism, sexism, machismo, like
Mm,
all of these things that us as Dominican women go through when we're younger and we're growing up. Like I witnessed all of this growing up as a child, and I
mm,
always hated it. I always detested it. I always tried to fight against it, and
mm.
that was pretty much my spirit. That was my spirit was somebody that like you knew you couldn't say certain things around that you knew were problematic. even as a child.
Mm,
Even as a child, like the adult men in my life were a little bit like, esa no es buena, like esa no es una muchacha buena, esa una malita por allá. You know what I mean? Like they kind of put me in that position where I was like the bad person for talking about these things. Like if there was a
mm,
priest on the news that was accused of raping boys, and I was to say that's not okay,
right.
my aunts would be like, "Oh no, that was the devil working through him," and I would say, "Listen, that could be true to an account, but we also have to take accountability. He's in a church. He's surrounded by yes men and yes women, and nobody who's really going to say, hey, we got to take care of this. Instead, it's most of, oh, we have to pray over him, and it'll be done." And that was my main thing. I wanted to hold accountable the people in our lives that were adults and were doing wrong things. But I didn't start writing until I was 21. So I think that writing had just become my outlet for it. But
Mm,
that's just my spirit. My spirit is to fight back, to fight against against like people who assume that these things are normal. Because unfortunately, in Dominican culture, like for them to say sexist and racist things, it's almost like if it's almost as if you telling them that they shouldn't say that is more offensive than what they said.
or what they did.
Exactly. So like if you talk bad about a person's skin color or a person's hair and you say, hey, eso no está bien, no diga eso, they'll look at you like, ¿por qué tú me estás diciendo? Like, ellos se ofenden por eso. So the reason I wanted to write the book is because I saw that me talking to the old heads, it was only so much I could do because they were so stuck in their ways. So I
Mm,
said, let me try to find an outlet where I can speak to our younger generation or people my age so that
mhm,
we could really fix and heal what's going on. Because eventually these people will pass away.
right.
And we have to maintain, we have to fix, and we have to relearn and unlearn a lot of the shit that we've been through.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that was my main method. I said I want to write, I want to get to a younger audience, and I want to heal from within so that we can raise better people.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say that I'm like, okay, I'm 30. Y'all already know. I'm gonna put my age out there. I'm a little seasoned, but I'm still young. Still got
A
the young looking
blessing, a
face.
blessing.
Thank you.
No, you
And
look a strong 23. I'll tell you that.
gracias, diablo. Ella me quiere. She loves me, you guys. She actually that was with love. Girl, don't hype me up.
Not for real. You have beautiful skin too.
Thank you. Next thing you know, I'm back in the club. Just kidding. None. Once COVID is over. Once COVID is over now. But the book resonated with me as well because, to be honest with you, I always knew there was something wrong within like my family in regards to just like the way that culturally we were operating about certain things, especially like the dynamic between my mother and I. I always felt like there was some underlying factor there that was like more for me to explore and kind of just like delve into. Um, and I felt like our relationship at times like could have been a lot better and it was somewhat dysfunctional. And I didn't really uh delve into it until I was like probably like 28
Hmm.
and then decide to like start really addressing it. So
Yeah. It's like our stories are the exact same because I thought that me and my mom were okay. I thought that's just how moms and daughters like got along. They fought all the time. Like, of course, that's just what happens. But I guess once we grow up and we start to see patterns and we start to realize certain things, even when you move away from somebody and you have time alone, you can see that some things that were normal to you growing up are actually not normal. And
yeah.
you just like wallowed in chaos and just like, you build the barrier and you just know how to function. But outside of that relationship, you won't really need that. Me and my mom, like, we fought like cats and dogs growing up. And I honestly thought it was because we were two different people and we just had two different methods of life.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until I think I was like 23 when I had the revelation that I had like resentment towards my mom. Like
Mm-hmm.
real resentment that I had never known of and I never let go. And I also didn't vocalize to her so that she could fix it. So I remember when her and my dad broke up, I was so upset at her. Like when they officially divorced and everything, I was so mad at her. And I was like, how could you? Like, how could you break up our family? How could you take him out of the house? All of these things as a little girl, I resented and I resented. And then I grew up and I was like, when I became a woman, I'll say that I looked at my mom as another woman. And I said, all right,
Mm.
I was looking at her as just my mother and not a woman who was in a relationship where she was unhappy. He was mistreating her. She had a lot of tough decisions to make for
Mm.
us. But because I was a kid and I saw it through my eyes, I looked at her as she was breaking our family apart instead of her literally picking herself up and having the strength to leave a situation that was bad for her. So
Mm.
it wasn't until I became like an adult woman and I had to look at my mom's through somebody else's perspective. Like I didn't want to see her as my mom anymore. I wanted to see her as a human, as a woman who had passions, dreams, ideas, and goals before I was here. Like she had traumas, she had relationship issues, she had things that she like it was her life, but because I was her daughter, I couldn't see it. Because it's like
Mm.
you're a superwoman. What the fuck you? What are you crying for? You're a superwoman. You're my mom. Like, we have like these
Facts.
visions of these women that they're indestructible. They don't get sick. They have no problems. They just take everything on the chin. And instead of us saying, "Oh shit, that's kind of fucked up," we applaud it. And of course, it is like I commend you, but it's also like, damn, I wish it wasn't so hard for you.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, man, no, that definitely resonates. We I have the same perception where like my mom is so strong. Like I probably count on my hands the times I've seen her cry, you know,
Mhm.
things like that, and we don't really take the time aside that to like really see them as a person versus just like a mom,
Yeah.
like separate them, and that's really hard to do because you're like so enmeshed, especially in Spanish Latino families,
Mhm.
like you're so enmeshed, and it's hard to like even think about separating or not talking to your parent. Like
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but like going more than 3 days without talking to your parent is like, oh my
Oh,
goodness,
tú
she
tienes
died.
otra madre entonces.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't birth you. I must have not birthed you if you're not calling me. You know how they are. It's like they don't hear from you for a day. It's like you got a new family I don't know about. You don't love me no more. Like completely understand that too.
So it's definitely difficult even creating boundaries.
Yes, that is one of the most difficult things to do with them.
Yeah. And like and them like respecting our boundaries, and I think that's where the issues definitely arise between mother and daughter because it looks like more like a ownership versus you valuing me type of like relationship.
Exactly. Wow, that's so real. What's crazy? I had a conversation with my mom probably 2 weeks ago, where I was super upset at her, and I had realized that I didn't vocalize boundaries to her regarding a certain subject.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when I spoke it to her, she was on the fence. Like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
No, like super on the fence. I don't want to hear that. You making that up, like. And in my head, I was like, oh, not in my head. I told her, listen, you need to listen to what I'm telling you, because at the end of the day, what you're saying is directed towards me. So if I'm telling you that this certain boundary that you cannot cross because it fucks with me,
Mm-hmm.
then there is no budging on that. You could feel how you feel, but this is a boundary and you got to respect it. Whatever you got to do on this side to acomodarte, to feel better
Mm-hmm.
about yourself, you do that on your own time. But this boundary, know that you can't cross this anymore. And we cried. We like, the conversations aren't always sweet. Like it's not always
No.
shits and giggles. Like we went at it. We argued for a second. I cried because I was telling her, listen, you not understand what I'm telling you. And then eventually, once she saw how serious I was, she was like, wow, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I crossed that before. And I'm sorry that I never knew neither. So she apologized and it hasn't happened since.
Yeah, and to be realistic, like, and this is for the listeners, and I'm sure that's if you have gone through this or if you are going through this, please note that like it's an ongoing process. It's a every
Yes.
day. This does not end. This does
Yep.
not end. Hopefully, it gets better. But they say with time, but honestly, it's not just time. You actually have to actively do the work with them. You can't just sit
Yep.
back and be like, "Oh, time will do this." No, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
like speak up. You better puff your chest and start like
Yep. And it's
using
every day.
that throat chakra. Start exercising that throat chakra. And like it may not sound pretty, but you gotta get it out.
Yep. And that's the main thing. It don't sound pretty. It never does,
It
especially
never
when
does.
it's super touchy subjects. Like as a parent, I don't know. I don't think you have children, right?
Not yet. No.
Not yet. Yeah, me neither. So we can't understand like the sensitivity of children or like that love that you might have for your children.
Right.
But there is a certain kind of, how do I say this?
Sensitivity.
There's a, yeah, like when you yourself, you think that you're doing everything right. You think you're being a perfect mom. Like you've, they never went without. They've always eaten. They always had clothes on their back. You and your head have created this reality that you're a great mom, that you're a great parent. You've done everything that you have. You see your kids' accomplishments and you think like, oh shit, okay, I did a pretty good job. So when one of your children comes to tell you, hey, you said something that really fucked me up as a child, and they're like, what do you, I don't even remember that. Of course you're not going to remember it because it was just another day for you. But for me, it was something that literally shocked my entire world. It could have been something very small to you, but to me, this affected me. So for them, they feel like they are under attack when we tell them, listen, when you
Legit.
tell them, mommy, what you did to me was really hurtful, they process it as, wow, so you're saying I'm a terrible mother. I've never done anything for you.
Right.
You hate me. This is why you don't like me now because of whatever happened in the past. Instead of them just saying, you know what, that specific moment was not okay. I shouldn't have done that, and I'm sorry, and I won't do it ever again. But if it were only that easy for people to accept their faults and apologize, if it were.
Right. Because at times when like you feel like you're being shunned on the other side, it feels almost like okay, what I'm saying is trash to you.
Mhm.
Like it's not valid. So what I'm saying is not valid.
Right,
Like
you feel super dismissed.
you legit, you feel super dismissed and it's like you're like, whoa, was that gaslighting? Like was
Hmm.
like you're telling me of an experience that I know I had, but you're telling me that it's not that. Wait,
Exactly, or that you have it misconstrued in your head somehow. You remade the memories. So I mean, imagine it for people like us who understand what gaslighting is, and we understand how manipulative it can be when you're trying to like just be away from responsibility. But I think about people who don't know what gaslighting is, who don't know like that maybe she's not incorrect. Some people who really do believe them telling them, yeah, you made that up, or you're making things the way you wanted to see. And even though it did happen that way, you believe because they said that. That creates a different level of like of mental health issues that you can't even like.
begin.
How do you have a relationship with somebody who tells you, who like invalidates all of your feelings? It's almost impossible. That's why it's so hard for like our generation to have these wonderful, thriving relationship with our parents, because most of our parents don't really know us because we've always kept up that wall of like, I could tell her, but just not enough. I could tell her my dreams, but just as much as like, you know what I mean? Like there's a wall of certain
Absolutely.
things that we just don't talk to our parents about. So that leaves out so much of the beauty of a relationship. But again, parents have to be able to take accountability for the shit that they've done for it to thrive.
Right. And especially like I don't know about your mom, but for my mom, when I tell her something, she's like, "Okay, so that does that mean that you're gonna do this? Does that mean you're?" And then she goes on this whole ride, and I'm like, "Yo, pump the brakes! Where are you going? Where are we right now?
Yep. You'll
Whoa!"
start at one point of a conversation and end on the other side of the river. Like, I know exactly what you mean. My mom is like that.
You like blink and you're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, and that I feel like that's also something that they do to remove responsibility still, because what they're doing is going in circles and they're just like trying to confuse you. You know what I mean? Like,
I for them they don't see it that way though. For
right.
them, the thing is too, that we have the terminology, thank God, that brings us awareness to like what is happening and what's going
Mm-hmm.
on, that we're like, yo, okay, I'm not crazy. But imagine, I'm sure my mom, who does not even know what gaslighting is,
Yeah.
she doesn't even know what that word means.
Mm-hmm. We
And if
have a huge advancement.
right. And at times, like I've had like to dive into conversation and explain it to her, and it's almost like too hurtful for her to even like take it in. She's like, whoa, is that what that is? I
Mm-hmm.
can't go there, I'm not ready. Like I
Yep.
personally cannot go there, because like this unpacks a whole other thing for me, that I this doesn't go with the mask I'm wearing right now. I'm strong. I'm
Exactly.
strong.
Wow. That makes wow. That goes perfect with one of the questions that you asked. I forgot which one was it. Um yeah, I forgot which one it was.
I'll get there.
But yeah.
I'm
All
like,
right, so
don't.
I'll leave that answer for that question then.
Uh, I'll get there with you. Uh, but yeah, we don't. They don't even get the chance to see the mask, that we don't even have a
Mhm.
chance to put ours down, because we
Exactly.
pretty much took on the mask that they like had, and we were like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm strong too. And I
Yep.
never had a chance to actually like make space for my feelings and my emotions, and like, wow, my feelings are a thing. Like this is a thing. Like it's very valid, and it's essential to my growth.
Yes.
And I'm missing out on this. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's a lot. I know. What were your
Yeah.
breakthrough
Listen,
moments?
with my mom.
Yeah, like what are some breakthrough moments that like made a difference for you? Or but tell me first what you were gonna tell me.
Oh no, I'll leave that. I'll leave that answer for for the question that you, because I know it's gonna come eventually.
Okay.
Um, but I would say a breakthrough for me and my mom was number one when I started to say, you know, I'm not gonna look at her as my mother. Let me take a step back and let me see. Let me just try to look at her as another woman, because I know that all of us go through our own things. So what makes my mom any different than me? What makes her any different than the other women that I know? So that's when I really started to look at my mom as another woman, and I said, all right, so this is a woman who has had her own traumas, her own troubles, her
Yeah.
own insecurities, the things that she's scared of. She's had dreams, she's had self doubt. Like all of these things are a part of being a woman. And she has had these things, and I've been insensitive to it because I'm her daughter
Mm.
and because she's supposed to be my mom and a superwoman. But it wasn't until I would say I turned 23 when I looked at her and I was like, all right, she's been through a lot. Just even from what I know, she's been through so much. And
Mm.
I know that if she can't admit to some of the things that if she can't admit to some of the things that, like the way that I'm feeling, and the pain that I'm trying to vocalize to her, she can't see it. It's also because the same thing that you said, they have their own mask. So it's like, for them to admit that they hurt you would mean to admit that somebody hurt them, and
Mm.
that what they went through was not actual normal. Like it wasn't normal for them to be abused or talked to, manipulated and gaslighted, spoken to by older ass men trying to like, you
Mm.
know, like none of these things were normal. But for them to realize that would mean that they would have to look at us and say, oh shit, I put my children through that thinking that it was regular and it wasn't. And look
Right.
how it made me. So with me and my mom, that was one of the major moments. I would also say, I would also say having that relationship with my siblings,
Mm.
because I've always had like a super honest and open relationship with my siblings. But there was one specific part of my life that I never spoke to them about.
Mm.
And I remember having that conversation with them led me to have that conversation with my mom,
Mm.
because they were like, they kind of gave me like the courage and the push to say, yo, you need to do this for the sake of your relationship with your mom. Like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And I remember that same day we had the conversation, and it was like, I had never physically felt so light. Like, when I
Mm,
told her that and we finished and we got out the car, we hugged, and it was like the world was different. Like, the aura in our house was different. It
mm,
was like she understood something about me that tied everything together of our entire life, every argument we ever had. Like, I would say
mm.
that was one of the biggest breakthroughs for our relationship.
Wow. Um, man. Yeah. For me, it was probably, I would say, I've had many, but I think the main pushing point was like when I'm being publicly humiliated. Like when I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm being publicly humiliated, I think that like another whole side of me that like I don't even I'm like, go ahead, girl, do your thing. She played. You listen. Go ahead, girl.
Yep.
You gave
You
it
got
to
the devil on your shoulder.
you got this. This one, this your round. And so I went Lex on her. Like I went straight katana. Remember Mortal Kombat? Like I was like I was like, oh, okay. Okay. And
I feel you. That's when you feel like you're under attack and you just start wilding out on everybody.
right. And so I had a moment and I told her like legit, like honestly, like how I felt and how disrespected I have been. And I told her, I was like, look, you're losing my trust. And once you lose my
Wow.
trust, that's hard to get back. And like I don't tell
How
a
did
lot of
she
people
feel when you
that.
told her
When I told her that, she like didn't say anything. And that's when I knew that like she knew I was serious.
that? Yeah.
I was like serious.
Wow,
Like
that's powerful. No, that's powerful.
but the point is that it when it hurts us to say those things. Like we don't like feeling like that. I'm sure you
Right.
don't either. Like it's so uncomfortable to even
Mm-hmm.
have these difficult conversations. Like I want to be loving. Like I want to be there for you. I want you to be a part of my life, but I had to have a sit down with her and be like, if you continue like this, you know how you know how some white people like legit they leave and they don't see their parents for days and they don't talk to them. Not
Mm-hmm.
gonna be me. Keep playing. Like,
Yeah, white people do that and they'll be gone for 3 or 4 years. They won't hear or see from the children. So
yo,
imagínate, we did that.
I
Imagínate,
remember.
you come back with three grandchildren.
I mean, I had a friend. This is a well, obviously like it's a cultural thing, but I had a friend that like she told me I was like, so I remember being in college. I was like, you're gonna go see your mom this holiday? Like, what are you gonna do for Christmas? And she was like, oh, every other year. I was like, what? Every other year?
Like, she just visits whenever.
I was
That's
like,
unheard of.
wait, what? You see your mom every other year? And but then I there was more to that obviously. Then I
Right.
understood where she was coming from. Um yeah. And so I started understanding her. Like I went back and I started thinking of her in the moments that like I was getting super frustrated with my mom and I'm trying to create boundaries. And I was like, you know what? I could definitely understand at times how like that cultural aspect of is okay for like in
Mm-hmm.
order to save yourself sometimes, because there's really people
Yeah,
who
for
have
sure.
really toxic relationships with their parents. And to some point I felt like it was like that for me, where it was like so hurtful that my soul was like, I cannot take another hit. and
Mm-hmm.
and so like I definitely will jump into it much later, but for people whose this is not an option of like mending these relationships with their parents, like please note that we completely understand that as well.
Yeah,
Like
for
that's
sure.
a very true thing, and sometimes very necessary in order to preserve yourself.
Absolutely.
So
To
yeah.
preserve you and your children, because some people will let it happen to them and they'll take the abuse from their parents, but once they have children, it's like, all right, I'm not letting you linger around my children and let you latch on to them the way you did me. So sometimes you do have to take those hard, like, super tough measures where you got to completely dissolve of that relationship for at least that time being,
Mm-hmm.
especially if it's costing you so much like emotional stress. And that doesn't even talk about the physical aspect of like some parents who are physically super violent with their children, no matter the age.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to like pull back and say, I'm sorry, I love you and it's going to hurt, but I can't until you are ready to fix yourself. I can't do that.
Absolutely. And then my next follow up, is what would you say to those who have tried having a mother daughter relationship and it has not worked? I think we pretty much just
Yeah.
like without
Um,
even intentionally doing it, but go like if you have anything else to add.
I would say the best thing to do is focus on yourself. Like
Mm,
as much as you can is all you can do when you've done everything is focus on yourself. Try to heal as much as you can. Pick up books, listen to podcasts, do whatever you can to fix and heal yourself. And then hopefully that person will be ready eventually to do that. But when you are having these conversations, it's like what I said earlier, when some people aren't ready to face their own demons, and for them to face yours, it's like, hold on, give me a second. Like if I look at your demons, that means eventually I'm gonna have to look at mine, and I can't do that. I'm not emotionally prepared to do that. So most of the drama and the stress that comes with those relationships, we notice in the long run that it has nothing to do with us and more to do with themselves, with our parents and their own struggles and problems and things that they probably don't discuss with us. So until they are ready to heal and work through that, you cannot put yourself and like your bloodline, your health, and your family and the people you love
mm,
in the crossroads of somebody who has absolutely no passion or like love for you
desire.
and your well-being. Yeah, they have no desire to heal and be better. They would just rather the relationship be as it is or non-existent.
Mm,
And if that may be it, then you gotta pack your bags and just straight up work on yourself and being the best for you and your family. But if you gotta cut ties, and I know it's so much easier said than done, like so much of
absolutely.
this is easier said than done. But if you truly feel like you are fighting and fighting and fighting with somebody that you love and you're coming to a wall, then
Mm.
you're gonna have to turn around.
Yeah, and I heard something today that I definitely wanted to include in the podcast, and it was forgiveness is not an obligation.
Right.
And I thank that person for like saying that to me today. Like
Mhm.
forgiveness
That is so true.
is not an
That's
obligation.
something that you decide. And if I feel like the hurt that you caused me is not conducive with us being in the same room together, or even for an apology, then I know some parents be like, I know that some parents like they can admit to a fault the things that they've done, but they also have so much excuses too. And they think that, oh, just because I love you, you should be around. Like it doesn't matter. I have this situation with my mom and my dad and my uncles all the time where I'm like, if you do things that hurt me and I tell you that they hurt me and you continue to do so, you showed me what you chose. So that's the best thing about being able to communicate. You get to see people's true colors. Now, if I tell you, Mom, what you did upset me and hurt me and it emotionally scarred me, and you say, okay, I'm going to change that. Now I know that you love me so much that you are willing to adjust some things of your life to help me feel better. But if you go on to do the exact same things or even worse, that goes to show like, all right, you don't really want me in your life, or you want this in your life more than you want me. So no, you don't have to accept people just because you love them, just because they love you. There is none. You don't accept people just because you're related to them, just because there's history. No, you will either address and act accordingly or you will not. But I'm going to remove and like, I'm going to shuffle some things around in my life so that you can know where you stand. I'm not going to just aguantar mierda because we got the same last name. That's not going to happen.
Right.
And that's such a disconnect because my mom and our parents think like, oh no, that's family. You have to. That's just the way they are. That's just the way they are. Así es que son. That you like. Tiene que aceptarlo. I'm not accepting that a motherfucking thing.
I'm not.
Sorry.
No, because that speaks to my self-love and how I what I, the self-respect I have for myself. And I think I respect
Yep.
myself enough to say no.
Yep.
No, that's not okay. Like you really have to like man up. Not man up, but like whatever, like
Yeah,
find
you
your
gotta puff up your
you
chest.
gotta puff up your chest and like really mean it. Don't puff up your chest and
Hmm.
then like forgive somebody and really not mean it just because you
Yeah.
don't um want to keep hearing the person talk to you because you know they're just feeding you lies and you just
Yep.
want
For
them
the
out of your
sake of
face.
peace.
Yeah, or for the sake
Yep.
of peace. Like sit in your discomfort. Sit with yourself. It's
Hmm.
uncomfortable. I get it. I
Yep.
completely get it. 1000%. But you gotta sit with yourself sometimes and you gotta do it for you because who else gonna have your back if you don't have it first?
Exactly. And that goes into our own like personal conversations when we want to speak to our parents. Like, you never want to see your parents cry. You don't want to put your parents in a position where they feel like they did a bad job with you. So I tell my mom that all the time. You think I have fun telling you these things? It
Facts.
probably hurts me more to tell you this than it is for you to accept it. Like, it hurts me to dig into my soul and say, yo, the person that brought me into this world did something that really, offended me or hurt me. It hurts me to see the hurt on your eyes. Like, I don't find joy in this. And I have to tell her that all the time. Just because I have these conversations doesn't mean that I like having them. It's just that I know that I have to do it for the sake of my peace and for the sake of my happiness and for the sake of our relationship.
Facts. And then I love what you said earlier when we first spoke. Initially during our meet and greet, you were saying, you
Hmm.
know, you think you're loving me, but your loving hurts.
Yeah, that's so true. Because the thing is that they shape the way that they shape their love around the way that they received it, and that's what
Hmm.
they give to us. So they might think that being harsh or like telling you something the way that they were told or acting the way they acted or being taught something the way they were taught is good for you, when essentially it'll just make it so much worse. Like, for me, you can't talk to me a certain kind of way. I don't mind you addressing things with me, but you have to know how to do it. You have to come address me calmly. Don't do it in front of people because then you're gonna make a show and then I'm gonna be the fucking clown and I'm gonna make one with you.
Right.
So
Facts.
exactly. So it's like, come to me when it's just us together. Tell me what I did and how I can make it better, but also don't like don't just throw stuff on me in front of people. And that was like what you said earlier about having that boundary of her like talking to you in public and trying to belittle you in public in front of people. Like, those are one of the major things, especially in DR, because they think that everything is like a joke, un chiste, or tú lo estás cogiendo demasiado serio. But
Facts.
and in their head, they think like, oh, I'm just loving you hard. I'm loving you the way that you need to be, but it's just hurting me way more than it's helping me. It makes me resent you. It makes me feel like I'm not doing things right when it's just because I'm not doing it the way you want me to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, and one of the things that I did want to touch on was the concept of, I'm not sure if like this has happened in your family or have you seen this, but I know that in our culture, it's a very real thing to parentify kids, especially like the oldest one, to
Mhm.
pretty much be like, make sure you take care of your sister or you watch your sister, or like, and it's almost like, yo, I'm 10. Can I be
Yeah.
10?
Yes. I actually talk about that in my book. It's so funny. I talk about, I think it's chapter 6, my favorite one. And I talk about why so many Dominican women are the way that they are. Because most Dominican, I'll say, are housewomen, or what you call housewomen, women who cook, they clean, they do all of the things that a good wife is supposed to do. And I always say that that goes back to the way we were raised, because so many of us are like the second mom, especially if you're the oldest child. I'll say that because I had the good luck of being the baby of the family. But when you're the
Lucky you.
oldest, you have the exact same responsibilities as the mom, besides the adult things, which is like driving, cooking. Well, not cooking. Let's take that back, because at 10 you be doing whatever. But it goes to show why so many Dominican women are the way that they are, and they love that the way that they love. Because we're taught that the way you love your family, the way you love is you cook, you clean, you make sure everybody's good, and then you take care of yourself. And
Mm,
the main thing of my chapter 6 is that we are so we are so used to taking care of everybody else that when we actually have a moment of silence for ourselves, we're still looking for somebody else to take care of, because
mm,
we're so programmed to fill our lives with the lives of other people. Meaning, mommy got to do this, mama got to do this, my cousin, my brother, my husband, my little brother, my sister, I got to do all of this.
yeah.
And then when all of that is cleared out, you're looking around like, damn, what the fuck do I do? And
Right.
it's because we're taught to fill our life with other people's chaos, and that becomes ours. When reality, that's not ours, it's theirs.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, that was me. I was the oldest. I was the one that I was like, but I'm 10.
yeah,
But I'm
it's
10.
crazy. It's crazy the responsibilities they put on young girls. Like that, the fact that young girls can't be young girls. You know what I mean? You can't be outside jugando, doing. You can't be in the dirt. You can't do whatever it is that little kids do, because you have to be preparing yourself for motherhood. And I say that in the book, where like we prepare we prepare our little girls to be mothers instead of women. We don't teach them how to be women and to like, all right, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I love. This is what I dislike. This is what I want to accommodate in my life. This is what I want to change. No, it's just about what can I do for others? How can I be of service to others? And as beautiful as that can be, it's also super traumatizing, and you'll just become obsessed with it. Like, that's why some people just fill their life with chaos, and you're used to it. And the second you have normal peace, you're like, no, I can't do this. Why is it so quiet in my head? I need stuff to do. I need somebody to help.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember this, but like our generation, more so, I want to say like they used to say that we were growing up quick. Oh, you're
Mm-hmm.
growing up so fast. Oh, you think you're grown. You think you're grown, and it's like, well,
Yep.
you're treating me like I'm grown.
Mm-hmm. And then they treat the boys like, como un
Hmm.
like a little
Oh,
infant.
oh,
Oh,
yeah.
mi bebe, shoot, do good do. I say a whole 15-year-old. Like, bro, you could get out the horse and carriage. You could get your fucking mouth off the nipple. Relax.
That's so funny. My friend says the same thing too because she got a brother. And she feels the same way. She's like, yo, like the double standards are so real. You don't even
Yep.
understand. And I was like, well, I didn't grow up with a brother, so I really didn't see that, but I can imagine.
Yeah, it's crazy. I remember my dad didn't let my brother do dishes. When my dad lived with us, he would never let my brother do the dishes. He wouldn't let him sweep. I remember my brother was sweeping one time, and he took the broom from him and
No.
gave it to my mom and told my mom to tell one of us to do it, because he just didn't look right sweeping because he was a boy. And I say that in the book too. My dad was like super machismo in that sense of like, men should just be, he should be outside playing, and he'll take out the trash, but don't have him washing no dishes, don't have him doing none of that. And me as a little girl, I was like, who the fuck? Like, what's going on here? Like, even me as a child, I understood that. Like,
You knew something
yeah, I
wasn't
was like, you're not
right.
about to play with me. Tell that motherfucker to come and come do these dishes, because I ain't finna do them.
No, I feel like that in regards to like the cooking aspect. Like my dad would be a bit more of like, oh, you didn't cook today? Oh, okay. And I'm like, yo, she just came from work.
Right.
Like, she just
That's
came from work. She just like took over the world. Like this entire like the whole day, you know what she was doing? She was like taking over the world. And then you have the audacity to be like, "Yo, where's my food?"
you know what's so funny? I was having this topic. I
Why?
was having this conversation yesterday online where how I remember in el tiempo de antes, the men used to work and then the women used to take care of the home. And now we're coming to a place where women are now working and taking care of the home. So like, just think about the simple audacity of somebody of both of these people working 12-hour shifts, and one of them having to come home after that 12-hour shift to also take care of everybody else and to cook and to clean. And not only are you also not only are you doing all of the housework, but you're also paying half of the bills. So it's like, what are we doing here? Where, like, what is happening in this world where we see women working 12-hour shifts
Hmm?
to come home, pay half the bills, and still cook, clean, and take care of another grown ass person? Meaning, you're not even doing your half. Like, if you want to have gender roles, you could do that. That'll be beautiful for you. But, bro,
Right.
do your part. Like, don't, these women should not be like coming home after 12, 13-hour shifts to now clean and cook after grown ass people.
You live here too.
Exactly. Like,
Like you live here too.
and it's different. There's
You a
gender roles
guest?
for somebody. Exactly. Tú no vives aquí. Like, come on. Haz de tu parte. If you are maintaining like the home, and you paying all the bills, and you on top of that, and then your wife stays home and she takes care of all that. All right. You have your gender roles, y'all both happy, live like that. But what you're not gonna do is you're not gonna make a fucking shit show out of women and expect them, oh, just because we're in like the 21st century of feminism and women wanting to work and take over of their lives, that you
That part.
think that women are gonna be splitting 50-50 and still doing 100% of the work in the house. No te pase.
Right. Like, let's clarify that statement because, like, now you're just pushing boundaries. Let's
Right.
clarify that. We're not bypassing this. No, come here.
Yep.
Let me talk to you real quick. Let me talk to you real quick. No, it's a very real thing. It's a
Yeah.
very real thing. And it's so interesting because it kind of does just relve into the next question, which is like, does our relationship dynamic with our mothers affect other relationships in our lives?
Yes. I would say yes. Capital yes. Because our mothers are the first form of love that we feel, whether it be a not a real love, or like a violent love, a manipulative love, whatever it may be. That is the first form of love that we feel. So imagine you going into the world trying to replicate a love that was not good for you. You know what I mean? Like, so many of us think, all right, I have to do things to get what I want.
Hmm.
If that's the relationship dynamic that you have with your parents, that you have to do certain things to make them happy,
Hmm.
and then they'll treat you nice. So eventually you will start going into the world, into your own relationships, and start doing that too. Like, now you're like campaigning for their love and doing like small things that you feel will get you rewarded. So and it could be a lot more, violent than that. Some people grow up with violent parents, and
Yep.
for them to have like a love that is pure, it scares them. And I talk about that in my book as well, where it's like you replicate what you see, and sometimes if you don't see that, you feel weird, and you like, if you are accustomed to having chaotic love and having love with the price or with something attached to it, that's what you look for outside of that. No matter where you go, you're going to start to look for that because that's what you know.
Right.
So it absolutely does affect.
Yeah, especially like, growing up, I want to say, like, being transparent, like, my environment was somewhat hostile
Mm-hmm.
between my parents, and I think it could have been a lot better. Actually, absolutely could have been better. Um and you always tell yourself like, I don't want that. I definitely don't want that growing up, and you try to do everything in your power to dodge
Mm-hmm.
dodge relationships like that. And the funny thing is that eventually it catches up to you
Mm-hmm.
in some way.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because you decide to move to a different city and now you're like at a distance from your parents and you've grown up, or do remember that some of those things that even though you're telling yourself, which is great because you have that awareness that, wow, this is not what I want.
Mm-hmm.
However, do know that you're gonna have to address those things for you, because those things unfortunately are somewhat ingrained in you, and you're
Yep.
gonna have to like relearn and uproot some of the things that like you witnessed.
Yep. And there's so much stuff that you probably didn't even know that you internalized.
Right.
There's things that you see and you're like, all right, that I never want to have that. And you could actively see and direct it and say, all right, that's not what I want. But then there's some things that you internalize, you don't even know yourself that you want, and that you like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like some of these things are so hidden inside of us that we can't even see it right away. It'll take some time, or it'll take a relationship like that to like reveal it to us.
Yeah, it's like generational trauma that's like woven in our DNA somehow
Hmm.
found its way into us.
Yep.
And we're like, where did this come from? Like, I thought I was aware of this. Like, I thought I had a grip on this.
Hmm.
And next thing you know, you're like in some relationships that are resembling some of the things you didn't even want.
Hmm.
And you're like, where did this happen? And you like literally you're guilt tripping yourself so hard. Like you're your
Yeah.
biggest inner critic, like when you're like being so hard on yourself. And it's like I literally had to take minutes at times to like give myself self-compassion. Like I say that word a lot, but I can't
Hmm.
stress it enough. And like so I can get to a space where I stopped attacking myself, because like literally you not only do you feel like you're in a situation where you're like, oh my goodness, I'm being triggered, but now like on top of that, I'm actually like attacking myself on top of that too.
Right. I as you talking, I'm like recanting a story in my head because I know exactly what you mean, of like that feeling where you feel like you know you've dialed in on the issue, and then it shows it lingers somewhere else, and now you're like, why didn't you catch that, you fucking idiot? Like, you're just like you, because if you could do that to somebody else, I know like you come crashing down on your own self, and you say, how didn't you see the signs? Why didn't you move accordingly? How did this happen? How could you be like so stupid? Like, so many things. And I know for a fact that we could be our own worst critic. We tell ourselves the worst things, and we have so much compassion and everything for so many other people. But for us, it's like, no, you should have known better. You out of all people should have known better. But and realistically, it's like, yeah, you do know, but sometimes you can't see. You
You're
know, like
human.
sometimes you're blinded by certain things, and you might be in a certain position in your life where you're a little bit weaker spiritually, emotionally, you're not as well as you could be. So it's like, of course, you have to have compassion. I'm speaking for myself because I know that I'm my worst critic too.
Yeah. And in friendships too, it can get interesting. Um, because that's like, like where women unfortunately have the reputation of like gossip, or have the reputation of like um what's the other thing I wanted to say and left me? But we have the reputation of gossip, but we also have the reputation of being competitive. That's the word, with each
Hmm.
other. And
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
like, but why? Where did this come from? Like, who hurt you? Or like not trusting each other. And it's like,
Hmm.
yo, but who hurt you?
Yep,
And it shows.
it shows for sure, especially in our female like friendships.
The female friendship. And that's why I labeled this topic, you know, mother wounds and healing the femininity, like that
Hmm.
feminine energy among us. Because it's like, as a woman, like I want to nurture my feminine energy more. And it's like I want to be the person I know I am and that I enjoy being, which is nurturing and caring and funny and like laughing and having a good time and just like being lighthearted and
Hmm.
like letting joy in, and really loving on my friends and giving them hugs and being affectionate and just like,
Hmm.
and it's like, where did that go sometimes? Like, what happened that, like, we're isolating ourselves, or we're just like so mistrusting?
That's actually a really great question. I think that it has a lot to do with the way we see women. First of all, it's just like you said, like we assume that women are catty, they're like untrustworthy, they always look like they're jealous. We assume all of these things about other women, and we don't even let ourselves in. Like, I know when I was younger, I was that way. I used to believe that all women were like catty, jealous, and loved gossip, and they only wanted to speak to you to get an intel so that they could go run back and tell their friends, like all of these things about women. And essentially it's not true. I think that the best friendships that I've had are with women. But again, you have to be in that vulnerable, honest space for it to work. Because
Mhm.
the friendships that I have lasted a long time. I've been friends with this one specific girl for about 15 years. I've known her since she was like 13, I believe. And we were having this conversation in the car 2 days ago, I believe, where I was telling her that our friendship is so unique because of the vulnerabilities and the honest and like the honesty that we have with each other, and especially the compassion.
Mhm.
We're super hard on each other as women. Like, we're
Mhm.
super hard on each other. We're super critical of each other. Like, we're critical of each other's decisions, the way we look, the way we dress, the way we move, the things that we believe in. We're super critical. So for me to trust women, I had to learn how to be compassionate. Like,
Mm.
I had to learn how to be straight up compassionate towards her, towards any random woman, even if I didn't like you. It's just about having that trust and like not disliking women just for being women. Because
Mhm.
a lot of women simply dislike you because you're a woman, because they believe that female friendships don't work. For whatever things that you like, for the things that you love, the way that you carry yourself. So I would say female friendships are absolutely detrimental to us as women,
Yeah.
but I can understand why it's so hard to have that and to build those long lasting relationships.
Absolutely. And that's why it's also good to reflect back on your mother wounds and like see and explore that a little bit more to see what's
Hmm.
there because that's your initial relationship with the first female in your life is your
Exactly.
mother.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of women who have like jealous mothers, mothers
Yeah.
who are literally, and it could be things because of the looks, or it could be access, opportunity, it could be hatred from like the dad of the child, all of these things that go into it. So I could imagine having like a mother who is jealous of you and is like nitpicking and constantly looks goes at your looks and the things that you like to do and what you want to be. Of course, if you see that as your first example, you're never gonna want to be around another woman in your life.
Facts. Facts. I always used to have this one friend that was like, I only have guy friends. And I was like, man, like I I can empathize, like sympathize why, but at the same time, like it spoke to some of the hurt that she
Yep.
probably had as well.
Yeah, for sure. I used to
Um,
be one of those people where it's just like, oh, I only hang out with guys. I don't like to hang out with too many girls because they're catty or whatever. Oh, guys are better friends. It's such bullshit. Men are not better friends than women.
right.
No way, shape, or form are men better friends than women. Um, but of course, having men friends is great. I have a lot of male friends. I
Absolutely.
would even say that I hang around because my three best friends are men. My three like immediate best friends, those are the people I spend most of the time with, are men. But it's like I know the difference between both friendships. I can sit and be honest and vulnerable with this person, with this woman, and I know that she relates to me. I know that she has compassion, and I could have these same conversations with my guy friends, and they compassionate. They understand. They're super like advanced in their mind, but
Hmm.
they don't relate the same way that I relate with another woman.
Right.
It'll never be the same, as
Facts.
beautiful as it is.
Facts. At least I can relate to that as well. I know some people will probably say have different experiences and that's fine and obviously like we
Right.
respect that. But this is my podcast and so this is that experience.
Right.
Um so yeah, I definitely agree with that and we are essential for each other just because I feel like the best times that I probably feel like I've been at my highest has been when my girls are like behind me, like supporting
Mm.
me. And it's
That's a
just
different
like,
type of love, man.
yeah, absolutely. And just like the transformative moments that I've had about just realizing things. I'm like, wow, I did not realize that. And just also seeing them be there for you, like in moments of like really shitty ass moments. Like
Hmm.
that is like means so much, especially when you feel so how can I say, like, misunderstood at home at times, and you
Mm-hmm.
have like an outside relationship that like resonates, and it's like, wow, thank you so much, like I
That's
appreciate.
the power of women too. Like you get to have discussions with certain women, and then you got start to say, "Oh shit! All right, so I'm not bugging. I'm not making this up. I'm not the only person who's going through this." It's a different level of comfort when you could talk to somebody who really relates and understands, or even if they don't relate, they show the compassion that you need, or they give you what you need in that moment. You know, even if they haven't been through what you've been through.
Yeah, and to be able to like actually nurture your friends, like my love language, I've actually started expressing more with my friends. They like laugh at me because they say that when I was growing up I was like so cold. They're like, oh Alexa, like you're always the one who's like grounded, you like, you never show face, like you never show like a poker face or whatever it is, like you literally are just like, we can't tell, like you just be
Hmm.
like, okay, what you gonna do about it, let's go. And the funny thing is that I actually had a friend who was like me. I actually met my match, and I met a friend who like, I was going through a really hard, difficult time, a very vulnerable moment in my life with a relationship. And I had to have a conversation with her because she was just like, well, girl, why don't you just get through it? I know you can, you're strong. Like, just leave him or whatever it is, and etc. And I was like, I, I'm trying. Like, I literally am trying. It's just like right now, Alexa, you're so strong. And I was just like, man, I did this to myself. Like,
Yeah.
no way. Like I put this front that I'm so strong, and that's like backfiring on me. And then
Hmm.
on top of that, like it almost made me push away from her because I was like, what I needed at that moment was understanding, not tough love.
Right.
And
Wow.
I was really hurt. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
That's deep. That's deep because I know so many people who are like that. Who I'm like that, where I'm that friend that you could come to with anything, and I'll be able to give you advice. I could talk to you, um, and I'm never really looked for that in return because I've always been a internal person where I have issues. I try to fix it within myself, and then if I can't within myself, then I'll try to find help outside, whether it be through family or friends. And I noticed that because I did that, people no longer had compassion for me. They just thought that I was superwoman, the same way I looked at my mom. So it's like you think that I'm bulletproof, you think that I'm superwoman, you think that I take everything on the chin, like I'm good, I'm gonna always be good. And reality, I'm fucking melting into a pile of straight up dust right before your eyes, and you can't even tell because I can't tell you. And you've also assumed this about my personality, that I'm superwoman, you know, that I could handle and take everything on my own, when in reality, no. Sometimes I need to fucking cry. I need to be sobbing, and I need somebody to hold me like I would hold them. I need to be loved and nurtured the same way I do you. And for me, that shit rings so true because I know what it feels like to be the friend that everybody goes to
The
when
strong
they
friend.
need something, when they need advice, when they need help. And then when you need it in return, it's kind of like all right, well, you got it. Nothing you can't handle. You be all right. Just like camera, you be all right. What's 3 bullets to your head? You gonna be okay. It's like, no, bro, I'm not gonna be okay. Like, give me, I'm not. Can you help me, please? I'm begging you.
It's like, yo, can you cook me something too while you're at it? Like,
Right? Like, I'm literally drowning, and you telling me, yo, you gonna be all right? Just breathe. It's like, but I can't.
legit. I can't even get a word out. Help me. Like,
For real, that's really how it be, yo. Like, and that's why as you talking, I'm like, yo, she's telling my story because the Lord knows I've had that issue, especially like this past month.
yo, I'm telling you, 2021. Listen, I don't want to, and I'm not going to jinx it. I'm going to just leave it
Yeah,
alone.
don't.
I'm going to leave it alone. We're going
I
to
feel
leave
like
it
we've been
alone.
doing okay this year. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. we, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this.
From Dios por delante, we'll do a year recap and see how this year went next year.
Absolutely. Um, but yeah, I definitely wanna what I want to give out there like some resources that like helped me, and I don't know if you have any resources too like that have helped you. But I can't stress enough and advocate for therapy. Like please, like if you feel like you have no one to go to, like don't let that stigma that as Latinos we have that like you only go to one if like you're not right. Like you're
Right.
not gonna be right if you don't go see somebody. So stop
Exactly.
playing.
There's more shame. There's more shame in it than anything. Because I know growing up, they always used to say, "Lo que pasa con nosotros se queda en esta casa." So whatever
Mm,
happens in this house stays in this house. Whatever issues you have, you deal with it with the people in your family or yourself, and you deal with it that way. But
mm-hmm.
for you to seek outside help is kind of like disrespectful because you spreading family business. That's bullshit. It's
Thank you.
absolute bullshit. When it's talking about your mental health that eventually leads to your physical health, emotional health, you are unhappy and you know that these things are fucking with you and they're making your life harder than it should be, absolutely go seek help. Go seek help. Don't have no shame in it. Do not feel like you're fucking crazy. Don't feel like you disobeying or disrespecting your family by being honest and telling your specific truth.
Right,
No, you get to live out your specific reality. Only you know what you've been through.
right,
And if you feel like you need help, you do it. And you do it without any shame, without anybody telling you that you're crazy or that, whatever it may be.
yeah. Whatever you gotta do for you, do that.
Yep.
Do that.
Do that and do it without shame because Lord knows that everything, especially in Dominican culture, that everything that we do is like magnified by, oh no, what will they say? ¿Qué van a decir la gente de la iglesia? ¿Qué van a decir los primos? Bro, fuck them. Haz lo que tú tienes que hacer por tu bien and release, release. Because
Mm,
Lord knows that most of the reason why we don't seek help and
mm,
why we don't do things like that is
mm.
because we like to have the opinions of people who are non-existent in our lives in the back of our head. Like my mom cares more, well, not my specific mom, but a lot of people's parents care more about what other people think than their own specific like their own children.
Facts.
So it's like
That's a
you will
fact.
literally try to control this person's entire life due to what other people will say. Like, oh no, you can't get a tattoo because what are they gonna say?
Mm.
Why are you gonna change your hair? Why you got your hair this specific way?
Girl,
What
don't
they
get
gonna
me
say?
started.
Oh, that's beautiful. I can't wait to do my first one too. But it's like,
Girl.
yeah, all of those things come with shame, and it's I feel like we can be the generation to cut ties with that. And it's like, listen, the projections and the things that you have in your head, for me, is not what I see.
Mm,
So just because you see me as this like saint where I can't do certain things to my hair, I can't do certain
yeah.
things to my skin, I can't act a certain way, I can't do what I want to do, I can't move the way that I want to move because of what other people will say to you about your child.
That
I'm
ownership.
sorry, but that pressure and that you have on my chest, it's not here anymore. You're gonna have to take that shit up with the Lord Himself. But your projections and what you feel I should be doesn't mean that it aligns with what I really am. So you're gonna have to bury those expectations of me and the opinions of other people and what they think about me because essentially that doesn't do me any good.
Right. I have no words. She said everything I had. I have nothing left to say. That's a wrap. No, I'm just kidding.
It's been a great interview though. I'll tell you that. I love it. I loved all
I
the questions and everything.
I I knew I was just like, God, I know the devil's working hard, but I work harder.
You sure do. Thank you so much for your patience, man. For real. This was great.
I work harder. Um, I don't know if like right before we leave off and whatnot. Like the one last thing I would say is, where do you think you are with your journey with your mom now, and like what does that look like, or the mother daughter relationship?
I would say we are constantly growing because
Mm,
with me and my mom, it's a day to day thing. We're not perfect. I'm not gonna front and say that we have this beautiful, spectacular relationship. No way. We have a relationship that we're both actively working on. We're both still setting boundaries. We have to reiterate those boundaries, especially
Mm.
me, because sometimes you forget, sometimes you cross a line, and or maybe I have a new boundary I have to set that I didn't know upsetted me before. So it's a constant learning journey. It's a day-to-day process. I'm still learning about myself and what triggers me, what makes me upset, what makes me happy, and still learning my own faults and flaws, like
Mm.
when I have to learn to step up and say, I shouldn't have said that. Maybe my tone was wrong. Let me go and apologize. Like,
Mm.
it's a lot of internal work. I'll say a lot of pushing your ego to the side. Like, there's many times still where I will say something and it'll come out nasty, and I'll be upset, and I'll feel bad about it, and I'll say, you know what? Let me go apologize. Not only for me so I can feel better, but also so that she can know that she didn't do anything wrong. And it was mostly my day that was going wrong. I just said something a certain kind of way. So it's not just that it's always on my mom. Like, my mom does have her days where, but it's a mutual agreement between both of us that we love each other enough to do whatever it is that we need to do.
Facts.
So
That part.
whatever it is, if we gotta cry, if we gotta yell, if we gotta scream, if we have to hurt each other with some of the words that we're saying, because of it's not easy to say certain things, as you know. It's not just curses and things like that.
Yeah.
Which thankfully, me and my mom have never had that kind of relationship where, like, we name call and things like that. But it's come to a point where now we're doing so much better, and yeah, our relationship, it's growing. I'll say that it does. We have our tests, but it's growing. I'll say we took a nap for the first time together, which was it was like so cute to me, because I used to sleep with my mom when I was a kid, and I remember when I was 7 is when I stopped, but I would sleep with her arm wrapped around mine. So I'd always have my arm wrapped around her, because I would, like, if she'd get up, I couldn't do it. Like, I need to know that you was there.
That you were there.
Probably until like I was 7, and then the other day I was just laying down in my room, and randomly she came and threw herself, and I was like, let's just take a nap. It was a snowy day out. I was like, and we just napped together, and I thought it was so cute. And I was like, this would have never happened if we didn't have those tough, nasty,
Conversation.
trifling ass conversations that disrupted our like happy pattern, this fake happy
Yeah.
pattern. Now we can actually have a thriving, good relationship that when I'm excited, I say, yo, let me call my mom, let me tell her. It's not like now I call everybody else and then I tell my mom. No, like, now we actually have a relationship where I want to hang out with you, I want to be with you.
Um, I would say the same. I Patience. Mine is patience. I think I definitely need to practice it more. I think what I keep telling myself is that my mom's training me for my kids.
My mom has said that before too. She's like, tú vas a ver cuando tú tengas lo tuyo.
I was like, she's just like, honestly, this is a training camp. This is what it is. This is my initiation to motherhood, to my own motherhood. This is exactly what this has to be, hands down. The Lord is like, let's see how you do with your mom, and then we could talk about your own family.
Right.
No.
Because Lord knows I need to work on my patience too. That's the number one thing I have to work on.
Yeah. So I appreciate you so much. This is so good, so good, so good on so many levels. Any takeaways, any suggestions, advice? Where can we find you? All those goodies.
So my Instagram is my name. It's just Lizbel Ortiz, Lizbelortiz. That's like the only major social network that I use besides YouTube. You can't find me on YouTube. Most of my videos are on there as well. Um, I would say one of my favorite books. I'll put two of my favorite books. I don't remember the authors by heart, but one of the books is called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway,
Mm.
which is, I read that book when I was 18 years old, when I was in network marketing, and I kid you not, I revisit it every single year. Every
Wow.
single year I go over it again and I read the highlighted parts, because that book changed my life.
Wow.
It
Okay.
changed the trajectory of my entire life. I'll tell you that. And the second one would be It Didn't Start With You,
Oh,
which
I
is,
want to read that one.
it's so good. It's such a great book, and it talks about generational traumas and how some of these things that show up in our lives really had nothing to do with us, and it was things that were already set in stone before we were even here. It's such a great book. It explains certain things to you, and honestly, it removes a lot of the kind of like the you know how you feel a little bit guilty when,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you uncovering these things, because it's just like, how can I go through these things and heal it, and then other people can't? And like, you see maybe your sisters or your brothers going through the same kind of traumas, and they can't find like the motivation to pull themselves out of these things. So I would definitely recommend that book as well. It's a beautiful book.
Oh my goodness. You're reading my, it's like you got a peek at my book list that I'm waiting to buy. That's awesome.
Yes.
And so thank you guys for tuning in and listening into Mahogany Honey. You guys know where to find my girl Lizbel. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment and go show her some love. Bye.
Bye, my friends.